Hello and welcome to my channel, Inspiring Life Changes. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and a big welcome to those of you who've come across to find out what it's all about. My name is Colette, and the reading that I'm going to be doing today is my interpretation of the astrology that is taking place. Today is the solar total eclipse that has happened in the sign of Gemini, or is happening in the sign of Gemini, and it's big energy. So as I was saying, this is my interpretation of that energy, and I'm calling it today speaking it into reality, and I will explain more of that as I go through. So starting the reading off with the cards from the Moonology deck, we have here first of all the new moon energy eclipse, saying expect powerful change. And this is literally what some people have been able to see today. Unfortunately, here in the UK, we haven't been able to get that kind of amazing view of that. So instead of reading the cards backwards, I'm going to do this one next, which is the new moon. And basically, as ever, new moons, new starts, new beginnings, something creative being brought into being. And with it being in Gemini, it's saying that it's all about communication. It's all about communication is key. So it is all about the way we express ourselves. But again, I will talk more about that with the actual reading. And we have mutable energy still, and a lot of it. A lot of mutable energy, so nothing is yet set in stone, which I think you probably can feel at this time. Everything is very flexible, very fluid, very kind of up in the air type of feeling. And lastly, the North Node, which is the node that is helping to cause this solar eclipse. Last eclipse we had 2 weeks ago was a lunar eclipse, or a moon eclipse, and that was caused by the South Node. So the North Node is saying step out of your comfort zone. I'm actually not sure if that's bright enough as I'm doing this reading, but I'm not really going to be showing that many more cards. So the actual reading itself, as I was saying, is being called speaking it into reality. And so the divine masculine sun energy conjuncts with the divine feminine moon energy during the time of a new moon. So this new moon is an annular total solar eclipse, and I will explain more about what annular means as I go through the reading. And it is taking place in the third house, mutable energy of Gemini. It is happening at 19 degrees 47 minutes, or 20 degrees at 11:53 UK time on the 10th of June. So any planets or points between the degrees of 15 to 25 will be activated at this time, and you will be feeling the full intensity of this total solar eclipse with its life-changing forces. Anyone with anything at the same degrees of the other three mutable signs, Virgo, Sagittarius, and particularly Pisces, because of all the Neptune energy that is happening at this time as well, and I will also talk about that as well. You're also going to be feeling this in a very powerful way. We're all going to feel it in very powerful ways, but if you have planets or points at those 15 to 25 degrees of any of those signs, you will definitely be feeling it most intently, and you will see it manifest in your lives as well. So as this is a solar eclipse, the energy will be hugely amplified, and it will last for up to 6 months. When we experience our next solar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius at the new moon on the 4th of December. just before the moon's nodes change signs, which they will be doing in January. So the last eclipse will be at the end of the year. And as this coming new moon total solar eclipse is taking place in an air sign, both the other two of this trine, which is Libra and Aquarius, are also automatically going to experience some major shifts in your personal situations. Depending on where those 15 to 25 degrees fall for you personally, with regard to the third house in your own personal chart, and if you don't know where those houses are or where your Gemini falls, then there will be a free natal link in the description box down below for you to go and check that out. And that's the area that you will see it manifest in. So if your Gemini third house energy is in, say, Libra, you will see it play out through your personal intimate relationships in some way. So for the collective, however, it will be taking place in the third house energy of Gemini and all that Gemini represents. So overall, we will be feeling it through this third house Gemini Mercury ruled energy. So more than anything, Mercury, Gemini in the third house are all about communication, intellect, logic, and how we approach and analyse our day-to-day problems. It is the monkey mind that is full of chatter in our heads, the repetitive conditioning that acts on autopilot, telling us how and why to do what we need to do without us having to put too much thought into it. It is the trained part of our brain that just reacts until we come across something we have not yet encountered, which we then have to decide whether to accept as part of our reality or to reject it as not plausible. This is when we can become split or divided within ourselves and the dual system of our brain, which can also cause us to experience cognitive dissonance, which, as a collective, we seem to be suffering from at this time for very many different reasons. So many parts of our life evolve around duality, which is what the Gemini twins stand for. And because we have had the North Node here for the last year, this has been our driving energy, direction and focus. So this includes things like the push for our personal data, no longer being considered a private and personal matter, as Mercury also rules over data and information. Another aspect is the merging of gender, the non-dualistic understanding of gender, so that female and male no longer exist as roles in their own right, as well as what has and is taking place within our school systems, which are much more about repetition and indoctrination than they are about teaching and learning. How they have become prisons of the mind rather than places for children to grow and expand, limiting potential and creativity rather than encouraging it. All of these topics are under the domain of third house Mercury ruled Gemini. Mercury is also the ruler of the media, which at this time is also seeing a major divide take place between the old established follow the party line media and the new unestablished alternative news. What is even more interesting is the information coming out about a certain laboratory, a certain doctor, and a huge dump of his incriminating emails, data, that also came out recently with information on how certain social media platforms colluded together to achieve that desired outcome, or their desired outcome. So that's all, again, Gemini, Mercury ruled information, emails being messages, so it's all related. So the last eclipse we had was in the 9th house energy of Sagittarius during the time of the lunar eclipse with the South Node conjunct the Moon. This time it is the turn of the North Node at 10 degrees 21 minutes, conjunct both the Sun and the Moon, while the South Node is being opposed at the same degree point in Sagittarius. The Sun and Moon are coming together to bring something new and as yet unrealised into being. As the Sun is shining its light on the path, the North Node is guiding us towards. So got itchy nose. Meanwhile, the South Node is telling us not to look back, not to carry the energy of the old stories into the stories we are all individually and collectively in the process of writing, whether we realise this or not. Both the Sun and the Moon are conjunct the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, who is only just over a degree away from them. This trio are also in squares with Neptune at 23 degrees and 8 minutes, which is helping to add to the feeling of uncertainty, everything being up in the air at this time, and a sense of confusion as to where is the world heading right now. Again, it's that mutable energy of nothing being fixed, nothing being definite at this time. And there is a lot of it. So Mercury is now retrograde since stationing on the 29th of May. Sorry, my nose is really itchy. At 24 degrees and 40 minutes. At the same time as being conjunct the planet of love, relationships, what we value, as well as all the things in life that make us feel good, which is Venus, at 24 degrees 25 minutes. This means the Mercury retrograde, as well as this total solar eclipse, will revolve around this Venus-Mercury energy, as the eclipse will also be activating those same degrees on the 10th of June, a few hours after the Sun and Moon are conjunct during the total solar eclipse. The Moon will be exactly conjunct with Mercury at 20 degrees 39 minutes. On the following day, the Sun and Mercury are going to become exact at 20 degrees 21 minutes. All of this is occurring in the third house energy within a very short space of time, and the eclipse itself will last for just over 5 hours. So this whole area of our astrological chart is going to be highlighted, magnified, and become very important and intense over the next few weeks, as Mercury stations direct on the 22nd of June at 16 degrees 09, while he is conjunct the North Node. So this is kind of carrying on that same energy. Yes, sorry, at 9 degrees and 44. So they are so close together. Mercury and the North Node will be so close together. And again, Mercury being all about communication, expression, the media. It's like everything is going to come into focus over this period of time. So Mercury will, during this whole period of his retrograde, be within that same 15 to 25 degrees, only coming out of it at the end of the first week in July, as he leaves his shadow energy of 24 degrees 47 minutes, which is where his retrograde started. Again, you may want to check out in your own chart where this is taking place for you, because this is where you will experience it the most. So this original Mercury-Venus conjunction implies a magnification of the energy and situations around our personal relationships, love life, and bigger questioning of what really matters most to us. Neptune will also be giving us that sense of non-reality, similar to living in a dream state, which is particularly strong due to us having 5 planets as well as both the moon's nodes, all immutable, very changeable, very fluid feeling energy. The Gemini energy being very quick, fast moving, often with very little time to settle our mind for long enough on one idea, or we keep jumping backwards and forwards trying to come to a decision on something that will affect the rest of our lives. Gemini is also about choice, being a dualistic sign, as symbolized by the twins, and this total solar eclipse is highlighting those choices, which could also involve a feeling of overwhelm with all the information as well as disinformation which we will be receiving during this period. Going back to the dream state for a minute, now is also a good time to pay attention to the dreams we are experiencing, as maybe at this time our deeper subconscious could be trying to alert us and show us something our conscious mind is not aware of or is missing information on. So this is a solar eclipse which is visible from the far northern hemisphere, starting in Canada. It will sweep across Greenland and the North Pole, the only eclipse of this century to do so, ending over Siberia. From these places, the ring of fire will be fully visible, as the sun will not be covered fully at any point during this eclipse. This is due to the fact that 2 days prior to the solar eclipse, the moon will reach her apogee. Therefore, she is furthest away from the Earth. This is known as an annular eclipse, as the moon's shadow doesn't quite reach the surface of the Earth. It just so happens that the Earth is also close to its apogee in its elliptical orbit of the Sun, which will give rise to the ring of annulus light, where the outer edge of the Sun is visible even at maximum eclipse. So, like I was saying, you will get to see this beautiful halo of light, which is a rare event, because often in a total eclipse it will be a total blackout of the sun, but this particular eclipse it isn't. Where the outer edge of the sun is visible even at maximum eclipse. The UK, however, along with Northern Europe and North America, will only be able to see this as a partial eclipse. So during the time of a total solar eclipse, what we experience is the light of the sun being completely cut off by the passing of the moon between it and us on planet Earth. This means that the energetic imprint that has been affecting us is about to be switched off, like a giant light switch for the full duration of over 5 hours. By the time we come out of this, things will have changed dramatically, although we will not experience these changes immediately. It will become more and more apparent as we move into the last 6 months of the year. The annular eclipse means that there will be viewable to those lucky enough to see it a beautiful ring of light, which will look like a halo, which symbolically is depicted as a sign of spiritual enlightenment, or the triumph of light over dark, truth over lies, good overcoming evil, however you wish to interpret it. It is an incredibly powerful, intense event for change in our lives. So one of the ways we will see these changes will be the revealing of truths, as the lies, deception and corruption that has been buried by the media will become exposed, like a tsunami of overwhelming truth, much of which the general public may not be ready for, hence the previous reference to cognitive dissonance. One of the best ways to deal with this overload, which will also include disinformation by those with a vested interest in keeping the lies and deception alive, is, as I've said before, connect with how it feels, how it makes you feel. How does it vibrate with you? What is the frequency it is coming through on? As this is also part of what I refer to as the Great Divide. This total solar eclipse is about to open a door that the established media is not going to be able to close, no matter how hard they push against it. Everything is going to come to light. In order for the Gemini mind to be able to scrutinize it, process it, and allow us to discern for ourselves what is real and what have we been led to believe as facts. The Sagittarius lunar eclipse and the Gemini solar eclipse are like a long corridor with two doors at either end. One is the doorway that opened us into the Sagittarian 9th house energy, which feels like we have been steeped in and saturated in all this accumulated history that has in many ways now turned into our limiting belief systems that we both individually and collectively has set in stone and somehow allowed to become sacrosanct when all they originally were was other people's ideas and beliefs that the human race has put its faith and trust in and agreed to believe are truths. However, the South Node lunar eclipse is telling us it's time to relinquish all those beliefs we believe are truths that have now become dogma, and to leave behind what could be expressed as dark ages as we rush down this corridor between our past and the new future we are going to be manifesting into our reality. We are going to be experiencing a quickening of life as everything suddenly all starts happening very, very fast around us. This total solar eclipse is the other end of this corridor, with the door which is leading us towards the Gemini realm of new ideas, thoughts and ways of how we look at the world. Not everyone is going to head in this direction though, as many will choose to stay in their entrenched belief systems, believing they are the answer to the change we are all needing and hoping for. There are, however, only two doors here, one for reliving the past and the other to create a new future. The choice will be ours, and this again will become apparent as we move into November and December for our last two eclipses of 2021. Just like during the lunar eclipse, we have Saturn in retrograde trining the Sun as well as the Moon, and the North Node during the total solar eclipse new moon with Saturn at 13 degrees 15 in the fixed humanitarian forward-focused sign of Aquarius, which has given us a sense of some stability, grassroots, and helping build something in our lives from the foundations up, like laying the groundwork, but with a higher level of conscious awareness of the choices we make all having consequences. Saturn in Aquarius will encourage the idea of connecting through smaller networking groups and communities over the next 6 months and beyond, which could be both in the frame of new social platforms springing up or within the physical reality of people joining together to create new projects. Saturn is also at this time in a very loose trine with Mercury, which will become stronger over the next few days and will continue up until the end of June. As Mercury is making us want to express and communicate at this time, and Saturn in Uranus ruled Aquarius is taking us to new and innovative ways of being, I now see Aquarius as the manifesting magician energy, as Uranus is the higher vibrational octave of Mercury, who is also known as Hermes the messenger. So this is a perfect time to talk the new into existence, to birth the new reality by speaking it into being as a dualistic sign. Gemini gives us the choice to decide where we will put our focus of attention and how much attention do we give to that voice that is constantly running in the background of our lives. Now is the time to make a conscious decision to listen, as this is the voice of our conditioning. And not only ours, but the previous generations that have helped create our self-image and self-beliefs. Listen to what that voice is saying. Are you constantly putting yourself down because of it? Is it making you feel disempowered and weak? Over the next 2 weeks, it is possible to take those darker thoughts and transform them into lighter, higher level, more affirming beliefs about ourselves, and to release the old patterning surrounding what we say to ourselves in our own heads. Mercury retrograde in Gemini and the new moon total solar eclipse is allowing us to reboot our inner world, to then begin reflecting our outer. The choice will be ours as to whether or not we take this golden opportunity, dependent on where we put our attention. Is it love-based or fear-based? Again, how does it make us feel? As this is what the universe will reflect back for us. Saturn retrograde is giving us an opportunity to re-examine, re-evaluate and relearn from the time period of the 14th of February up to the time when he stationed direct on the 23rd of May. Saturn is also going to be having the second of his 3 exact squares with Uranus on the 14th of June at 13 degrees and 6 minutes. Uranus in Taurus is determined to change our world and our environment, with his long ongoing battle with Saturn, who is equally determined to resist and restrict those changes which will benefit the human race as a whole. On a long-term basis, as Saturn is wanting control and Uranus is wanting freedom. So Uranus is trying to break us free from the old constraints and bring in that new energy and to change things up. And Saturn is over there squaring Uranus, saying, not happening, no way. Keep the status quo the way it is. I want to restrict your lives. I want to have more control. I want to stop the new from coming in and completely changing and transforming the way that we live our lives today. So at the time of the total annular eclipse as well, we have Ceres, who represents the goddess of fertility, harvest and agriculture, which is also where we get the word cereal from, is conjunct Uranus and also square Saturn at 12 degrees 42. So Taurus, which could imply some, of Taurus. So Ceres is conjunct right next to Uranus at this time, and Uranus is all about sudden fast changes, and Saturn is about restriction, as I was saying. So there could be some hold-ups and restrictions around the food industry in the following weeks or months to come, and this could be due to major upheavals on the planet. Earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, even plagues of insects, as Saturn and the Uranus square up to each other. I mean, these are two huge planets, and they're going to be in this exact alignment with each other, both kind of battling things. I like to see them as kind of in a boxing ring, two big giants kind of going at each other for domination, to see who's going to come out on top, basically. But at this time, with Ceres right next to Uranus as well, it could have an effect on the food industry. And we're already kind of seeing things becoming a little bit dodgy in that area if you've been paying attention at all to what's going on around the earth at this time. But when these two massive giants kind of meet each other, it often will have disruptive energies on the actual planet, like shifting of the plates and volcanoes erupting, earthquakes, things like that become more intense and much more likely. So Saturn is an earth planet in the sign of air, and Uranus is an air planet in the sign of earth. So big changes physically and mentally are going to be experienced. Uranus at 12 degrees 54 minutes is also sextile Venus, who is now in the watery realm of feeling Cancer at 09 degrees 38 minutes. Venus has been out of bounds since 24th of May, which incidentally was the same day that Mars came back into his orbit, after being out of bounds since the 21st of March. When a planet goes out of bounds, it means it has gone over 23 degrees 27 minutes north or south of the celestial equator, which is known as the Great Circle. So it's to do with latitude and delineation rather than the actual degrees itself. So if you were to look at your chart and see that you've got a planet that's at, say, 24 degrees, it doesn't mean that it's out of bounds. It's to do with the elliptical or the celestial equator and the and where it intersects the celestial or the sun's sphere as it goes around the earth. So at a certain point, which is 23 degrees 27 minutes, if a planet goes beyond that either side of this line, then that means it is out of bounds. So astrologically, this means the energy of the planet in question becomes a rebellious teenager, not wanting to listen or conform to the normal rules of the sun's influence, like pushing beyond the boundaries of what is acceptable. An out of bounds planet acts like a minor version of Uranus. Unpredictable, eccentric, spontaneous, wanting to go its own way, do its own thing. We just don't know what it's going to do next. So with this in mind, this new moon total solar eclipse is at the same spot that Venus went out of bounds, 19 degrees, while she was square Neptune and trine Saturn. And all of this energy, it's all being reactivated while Venus herself is out of bounds and sextile to the planet of revolution, electricity and sudden change. This will be adding an extra spark to all our lives at this time, whether this is with our social life or our love life. Something quirky, out of the ordinary, could well come into our field of opportunities to experience. As Venus is now in Cancer, this could also include something unexpected around our home and home life or our financial world. Venus is feeling footloose and fancy free. And for some, this could be a time to end a career and do something which makes much more emotional sense. This could also be a time when Venus wants to take some risks, go out on a limb, be much more wild and carefree, out of the crab's shell, and live a little more dangerously. Mars is at the end of his once every 2-year visit to Cancer, now at 29 degrees and 18 minutes. He will in fact be leaving on the 11th of June and entering into Leo, where he will once again be allowed to feel strong and empowered. In the meantime though, he is making some interesting connections as he opposes a retrograde Pluto at 26 degrees 23 of Capricorn, a trine with Neptune and a quincunx with a very slowed down Jupiter at 02 degrees and 1 minute, both in Pisces, but forming different angles, as well as a sextile with Black Moon Lilith at 25 degrees 48 minutes, or 26 degrees of Taurus, while she is also in a trine with Pluto. Mars, Pluto and Black Moon Lilith are implying more struggles taking place within the corridors of power, as well as explosive scandal with the quincunx from Jupiter. Those in positions of power are not going to be having an easy time. Jupiter will be expanding these sensations and really highlighting the flaws and errors of decisions based on beliefs that have already been made. So past beliefs, basically past decisions that have been made, are going to come much more into focus and into the light. Black Moon Lilith is going to help to stir the anger and the rage that we are going to feel as the truth about 2020 comes pouring forth, as people realise it didn't have to be this way. With the trine from Neptune adding to this, we could also see a lot more fakery, lies and illusion, which will add to people's sense of confusion as the old deception tries to be covered up by yet more new deceptive actions as they continue to dig themselves a deeper hole to be buried in. So Neptune is still in the background, being double sextiled by both Pluto on one side and Black Moon Lilith on the other, while Black Moon Lilith is trine to Pluto, forming an almost perfect isosceles triangle with the head being pointed at the Neptunian energy. Overall, Neptune is connecting with 6 different energies at this time, which is creating an almost surreal feeling of walking through a living dream. And if you are having really lucid dreams at this time, it may be getting harder to tell the difference from reality and the dream state. So we have Neptune connecting with 6 other planets, and we still have 7 other planets in mutable energy as well. So the whole energy at this time is almost like a dream world. It is almost like what is real and what isn't real. Am I awake? Am I asleep? It's all very, very odd, very kind of surreal, really. So Neptune is also encouraging us not to overanalyze everything at the moment, as Mercury retrograde will be giving us a tendency to want to do so. Neptune is still telling us to come out of that overthinking place and place our thoughts in our deeper subconscious and knowing, and to feel the peace in the centre of the hurricane. So a lot of information is going to be coming out, a lot of like bombardment of new information. A lot of it is also going to be disinformation, as I was saying, because there's going to be a lot of forces at work to kind of try and keep the true information covered up by the disinformation. So a lot of it is also going to get kind of mixed up together as well. So it's really going to be a time when we're going to have to discern for ourselves as much as we possibly can and not listen to the outside media just kind of telling us how it is and the way it is, and just accept that. This is kind of really saying it's time for us to feel it for ourselves, to decide for ourselves, make the decision and the choices for ourselves as to what feels right, what is true for us on a personal level. And this again is going to add to that the greater divide here as well. So just going back briefly, talking of hurricanes, the 14th of June, the day Saturn and Uranus square, is the 75th birthday of Donald Trump. At the time of the total solar eclipse 4 days previously, he will be having his Sun, Uranus and North Node, which are all in Gemini, very strongly activated, as well as his Moon and South Node, which are both in Sagittarius. This is without fail an incredibly fated time for him and for America, whose fate is at this time tightly tied up with his. Very big changes could be on the horizon here, particularly with the Saturn-Uranus square taking place on the same day as he celebrates his day of birth. Remember, Saturn, old energy, trying to keep things the way they've always been, not allowing the new energy to come forth and change things for the better. And with Saturn being in Aquarius, it's about changing things for humanity as a whole rather than just for the kind of individual. So lastly, I want to add a bit about this great divide energy we are experiencing. As I have said before, we are at this time experiencing a rise in vibrational frequency, which some are better suited to handling than others, depending on the density of our personal vibration. This is in itself creating the dividing factor, or the fork in the road, of where we are heading. And this is due to our Earth also going through a transformational experience of its own. As we are now being bombarded by photonic light, as we have entered the photon belt, something it is believed we do every 12,000 years. What this does essentially is activate our light body and allow us to hold more light as we expand our frequency during this period of evolutionary soul growth. So this is also why we've got this divide happening, because there's people who are still very much in that lower density, lower vibrational energy, probably more in tune with the Saturn energy at this time, and then there's people who are more open, awakening by this stronger Uranus energy as well. And they are the people who are wanting to shift things into a different dimensional vibration, shall we say. So we've got the old paradigm versus the new paradigm of the new world that is being formed at this time. So the Sabian symbol for 20 degrees is phase 80 Gemini 20 degrees. A modern cafeteria displays an abundance of food products of various regions. And the keynote is the assimilation of multifarious knowledge through the synthesizing power of the mind. And it says, from the one, the many arise in due time. The original source gives birth to the mountain stream, which, gathering to itself the downflow of rainwater, becomes the large river around which cities are built. These, in turn, pollute the river on its way to the vast ocean. This modern symbol expresses the fact that man, now at the close of a cultural cycle, is able to gather foodstuffs, mental as well as physical, from many regions of the globe. His diet has acquired a planet-wide foundation. History tells us that the search for salt and spices, then for commodities rare in local regions, provided the impetus for global trade, and thus eventually for a planetary consciousness. The results may be satiety, difficult word, I'm not going to say it again, and indigestion, and mental confusion caused by lack of discrimination. So this is the last symbol of the 16th fivefold sequence. As it is most often the case, such a fifth stage implies a certain kind of synthesis, or at least a preparation which leads to a new level. The keynote here is indeed assimilation. The negative potentiality of the symbol is waste. So that is the end of the actual astrological report, I suppose, my intuitive interpretation here. And I'm just going to pull very quickly an angel script card. To see what the angels would like to say for us at this time. So the biggest energy that we're dealing with really at this time is the Neptune energy of things being almost, like surreal, for want of a better word to use. It is surreal. It is all kind of imaginary and almost like watching a movie pass across a screen in front of you. It's very And it's probably the best way at this time to cope with what's going on around us in life as well. Because Neptune is very illusionary. Also very creative as well. So now is also a good time to write, create in some way, some form. But particularly I feel to write down that inner voice that we hear, and to see what it is that it's saying to us over and over again. When we catch ourselves suddenly hearing it and listening to what it's actually saying, it's worth writing it down to see whether, like I was saying, whether it's in a love-based vibration or whether it's in a fear-based vibration, because that will make a difference as to where you yourself are personally vibrating energy-wise at that time. So what do the angel script cards want to say for us today for this total total solar eclipse that's taken place on the 10th of June for the collective? Oops. What is the message here? Source. What is the message? Oh, there we go. We have two cards that have fallen out. We have Samael, which to me looks very Uranian, very electrified. And we also have Cuff, which is celebration. So read this one first, which is saying, celebration is a demonstration of delight. We are grounded in light, our feet dance and our voices sing. We celebrate the unfolding of time and the opportunities for creativity. We bring gifts to the temple and decorate the golden walls of the cathedral. All those who arrive have dressed in their finest clothes and bring instruments and wine. Then the music begins and the singing lifts the hearts and those who celebrate the cornucopia of heaven and earth. We may celebrate the divine at home or gather with our friends. We dance joyously alone or with partners. We sing quietly to ourselves or raise a great chorus. The celebration is ordained by the divine and we must partake regularly. Those who never stop to celebrate have forgotten to acknowledge the gifts which are constantly and freely given. Celebration is an activity of the heart. The whole being participates in expressions of delight and joy. Celebration comes after labour and prayer. All things have been offered to the divine and we set aside time to enjoy the fruits of our plantation. We can all bring our own offering, great or small, and participate in dance, music and ritual. The actors remind us of the divine drama, the musicians of divine harmony, and the jugglers of divine playfulness. Unless we join in, we forget our role in the drama. We lose touch with harmony and playfulness. When we celebrate, we become children at a party given by our divine parents. So it seems to be saying that the best way to get through this period of time is to celebrate, to enjoy it, to allow ourselves to rise above the negative aspects. and to feel that joy and that celebration from the heart. And it's also something that we haven't really been able to do for quite some time as well. So maybe there's a message, a strong message there for us to get back into that place of celebration. So Samael is adversity, which is actually quite a Saturn energy, but it looks very Uranus to me. Maybe it's the Saturn-Uranus square that we're going to be experiencing on the 14th. So Samael tests our diligence and our dedication. Samael provides boundaries and limitations in order that we may grow in strength and purpose. This archangel strips away the old and the useless. It encourages new beginnings by pruning dead wood from the tree. We learn how best to develop our gifts when the teacher insists that we make progress, even at those times when we feel inclined to rest on laurels already gained. Samael does not permit laziness. It insists on hard work and commitment to the goal. Meeting Samael is like meeting a parent who wishes the best for us and delivers stern advice. We will not be allowed to stumble or falter, since the parent who insists on growth and progress has our best interests at heart. We may feel tasks have been set which are too difficult, but we are never asked to undertake the impossible, and we will always be supported in equal proportion to our own effort. Samael is tempered steel, strong and inflexible. It creates girders for the building of our bridges, and these structures will hold fast against decay. Storms and earthquakes cannot shift the products of hearts who have laboured diligently. Samael provides firm foundations on which to build a city of light. When we are asked to work, we must join in with delight. The master only becomes a foe when agreements are broken and commitments are unfulfilled. Samael blocks a free passage only when we have chosen the wrong path. Adversity becomes necessity only in the face of our own foolishness. Then we are corrected, and that which seemed difficult is smoothed away. So it seems to be saying that although things seem to be adverse and difficult, this is the time when we are learning the most, which is also a Gemini Mercury energy as well, the teaching. Third house. But I'm kind of seeing this as the Saturn-Uranus square. Saturn is the controller. But we have to break through that, is kind of what it's saying, is that to bring in that new, that freedom, we have to also, on some level, work with the adverse energy that is trying to hold us back, and to become diligent. And there's also, because it's coming from the head as well, if you see there, it's like there's a mental message here as well. Feels to me like downloads, an input of light and opening up again. It feels like that light energy which I was talking about earlier, the light body as it was talking about. But also, as I've said previously as well in one of my write-ups, is that the way to create diamonds is to put them under a lot of pressure. So when we're under a lot of pressure, it's like we're being forced to face the negative and clear it out, get rid of it, to become this more light empowered beings. So that's where I'm going to leave the reading today and say thank you very much for coming across to find out what it was about. Please could you thumbs it up for me, like it, because that helps to get it out into the bigger, broader YouTube world as well, and hopefully get other people to see it as well. Mercury is retrograde at the moment, so anything that I'm kind of stuttering about is because my brain at this time is actually elsewhere doing other things, and I'm trying to kind of stay focused. This is big energy. I've already felt like my head was going to explode earlier today, so a lot of input coming in, a lot of downloads are happening for people as well. So also kind of focus on the heart energy at this time as well. If it all gets too much in the head, go into the body, focus breathing through the heart, because that kind of takes the tension and the extremeness away. So going back to what I was saying about subscribing as well as liking my videos, please could you also, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to my channel. If you have learnt anything today from this reading, if you found it of any interest or benefit, please also thumbs it up and hit the little bell to get the videos as and when I put them out. I will be putting out the tarot reading to go with this as well. And I also do all of the sun signs as well, for those of you who are not aware. There is a playlist on my channel. There are no times or dates except for the moon's readings. Everything else is down to the titles and whether or not you resonate with them. So I'm going to leave it there because my throat is actually going a bit weird at this time as well. And just say enjoy this total solar eclipse energy, which we will be in for the next 6 months. This is a big shifting of energy. Things are going to change rapidly, and just kind of hold on and see through to the other end, and hopefully I will see you all again soon. Take care.